What does it mean to live a meaningful life?
So for me, I think it has to do with making yourself useful. I think you just have a richer sense of being alive if you know that it matters in somebody else's day, that you're there, or that it's you, not somebody else, doing the particular thing that you're doing. And that can take a lot of different forms, but for me, obviously, it's mainly taken the form of service, public service and military service. And the opportunity to do that in the context of something that you care about, I think certainly fills me with meaning.
America had too often failed to adequately care for or even appropriately welcome those troops when they come home. In fact, this isn't in my speech, but I want to say to anybody who is here who served in the Vietnam generation, having come home to balloons and smiles, at a time when America had benefited from learning how to separate what we feel about those who serve from what we feel about the policies of this country. I am mindful that not everybody who served had that same benefit. And if you were among those who were not received in the right way when you come home, I believe it is better late than never to say thank you and welcome home.
And so part of the conversation I'm having is with black voters who usually ask me one of two kinds of questions. How's my life going to be different if you're president, right? What's your vision for black America around voting or health or education or income or whatever? And the other question is, who are you? Right? How I know that you're serious about any of the stuff you say, either based on your story in South Bend or based on what's inside you. So that's a conversation that I'm having with black voters. I'm also, frankly, having a conversation with white voters about why dealing with white supremacy can't just be a black issue, or an issue that candidates of color talk about, or an issue that white candidates talk about only when we're talking with black voters. Because earlier today, we were at the memorial here in Montgomery, and it was a reminder of the connection between what has happened at the earliest moments of this country's founding and what is going on right now. And I'm convinced that if we don't wrestle down white supremacy in our lifetime, that it could kill the American project. Part of what was so moving and impressive, for example, at this facility we saw in Watts, is the way that some of those reasons that people might hesitate were taken away. Things you wouldn't think about, like for many people, a relationship with an animal is a critically important thing in their lives. So they make sure that it is a dog-friendly environment, making sure that people know that they can get that kind of access, making sure that when there are couples for whom going into a facility would mean separating, that there's an answer there. Sometimes the reasons that people have for hesitating, even though it might seem hard for us to understand, sometimes those reasons can't be dismissed, they can be addressed, and we should address them at every turn.
For example, an alarm clock. An alarm clock is a contract between your higher order self and your lizard brain, because your lizard brain just wants to sleep because you're tired. But your higher order self has decided that you have an appointment at a certain time in the morning and you need to make it. And so you set the alarm clock. It's like an agreement between your night self and your morning self. Mm-hmm. And government can be like that too. There's a law school whose motto includes talking about those wise constraints that make us free. And we always have to think about freedom in a richer sense because, yeah, there's a lot more to it than just running around doing whatever we feel like. It was one of the most difficult experiences I had, which is we had a double homicide. And I went down a couple days later just to see what was going on at the corner where it happened. I didn't announce I was coming. I just turned up. And people started showing up at the same time. And inadvertently, I had shown up at the moment that neighbors were basically having kind of an impromptu wake. And the mother of one of the victims showed up. And I dreaded the idea of talking to her because I had no technical expertise in what to do. I don't know about grief counseling. I don't know about psychology. I did not have any knowledge of how to make this person better off. To the point I almost avoided talking to her. But I knew, of course, it was my job to talk to her. So I went up and talked to her, and it was all small talk. And I don't remember what we said. But it came back to me many times later that it meant a lot to her that we had talked. And what I realized then was that it didn't matter, frankly, that it was me and not somebody else there. It didn't matter what I say. It had nothing to do with my skill or my actions. It was that the mayor was there. The mayor was there meant the city was there. And the city was there meant that the city cared about her loss. And so as a walking symbol, as an avatar for whatever combination of people elected you to a certain office, that matters. and from the presidency on down. I think the symbolic power that's conferred on you is something you can deploy in order to get results, just as much as the sort of policy machinery that you're put in charge of.
Pretty simple question, yes or no. Do you think Michael Bloomberg is trying to buy the Democratic nomination for president?
Yes. Yes.
But this idea of economy of words even matters, right? It's something I strive for, to try to make sure that every word that I utter, that there's a pretty good ratio of meaning to air taken up.